Welcome, ladies and gents, to another episode of the Wrestling Connection podcast. Thank you very, very much for tuning in for another exciting and pulsating week of Wrestle Chat action right here. I use the word pulsating there because that used to be the description of Monday Night Raw on the Sky box. It used to say, tune in with Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler for another week of pulsating Raw action. Used to be the description.
I imagine Vince McMahon in a meeting with like the executives at Sky when they were renewing the TV deal, and he was like, "This description, it's not good. It's raw. It's uncooked. It's uncooked. It's pulsating." And he's like taking up half the table with his arms when he's gesticulating to, "It's pulsating. It lives in your veins."
Can't you just feel the word pulsating there? Yes, well, Vince is not here, ladies and gentlemen. It's just myself, Chris, and my partner, Glenn. We're here for another week, episode 31. A very boring number, I must say, but one of my favourite WrestleManias of all time. You can take a swing at my ego was the song, but I can't play it because it got copyrighted on YouTube and I played it on there before. What are your memories of WrestleMania 31 from Santa Clara in California?
Very fond in memory. So that was 2015. Now that September, like I've told stories about my visits to California because like that's where I met Rikishi when I was 12 in Oakland Airport. Not in Santa Clara. But the reason I've gone to California so many times is because I've got family and friends there. And the last time I went to California was in 2015, but it was a few months later in September. And so in 2015, in September, I went over to Berkeley, which is near San Francisco, for a week to see my pal Caroline, who stays there. And I'd been there for a few days, and we're staying at her apartment. And at one point, like I was in the car with her and her friend, and it somehow came into conversation that I like wrestling. Like, it somehow got up, and her pal just kind of went, "Oh my God, the bane of my life. Do you remember when we went to Santa Clara in the spring? We couldn't do anything because of all these wrestling people. I kept seeing all these big men everywhere, these big muscle men with beards." And I just like to think about my pal Caroline and our pal Jess trying to get like a coffee somewhere, but they couldn't because Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns were probably having a burger through her fans. That was what was happening. Was they kept on 2 occasions they tried to get into like cafes and restaurants, but there was somebody well known who happened to be there, and loads of fans were trying to get pictures. Yeah. So I don't know who it was. If it was Jinder Mahal or like Fandango or
Rusev on a tank.
Roman Reigns, but so that's the first thing I think of when I think of that WrestleMania. Is just like, it must be weird being in a town that's hosting WrestleMania when you're not a wrestling fan, because it's like being in Edinburgh when the Fringe is on and you're not a fan of comedy. You know what I mean? It'd be so annoying.
I know. I hate Edinburgh most of the time, but never mind during the Fringe. I'm saying that I did miss the Fringe this year. I do tend to go through every year and just to soak up the atmosphere. Go see a play or something. But
rarely do I go through and actually stay a show in the evening. I'll usually just go for a day, but I love it. And Robert and I go every year. But anyway, to answer your question about Mania 31, I love this WrestleMania, and there's lots of things that I remember fondly about it. I think of the excellent ladder match. I think of just how nice it was to have a different aesthetic with the sunlight. You know what I mean? As much as I didn't like what that then meant for like Sting's entrance and the Undertaker's entrance and Bray Wyatt's entrance, but it was still cool. I love Triple H and Sting. I absolutely love that match because it wasn't what I thought it would be. I thought they would just have like a match in the style of Undertaker and Triple H at 27. Do you know what I mean? I thought it'd be violent, and I did not expect all these theatrics. And on paper, it should have been awful, but it was amazing. And the minute NWO versus DX happened, which made no sense if you know your WCW history, I still went absolutely gaga for it. I just thought it was campy, stupid, but ridiculous.
I love how that's Vince McMahon's thought process, though. He's just like, oh well, it's just all WCW. It doesn't matter the fact that it was like the whole boom period of WCW was Sting versus the NWO, but to Vince, it's just all the same thing. You know what I mean?
By that logic, Disco Inferno should have been running out as well and doing hitting somebody with
he probably was in the NWO at some point, entry number 64 or something.
I love it, and Rollins and Orton have that great
Oh
match,
yeah.
the incredible spot at the end, and there'll be other things that I'm overlooking. The only disappointment really for the night for me was Wyatt and Taker, and it wasn't a bad match, but I just because of how hot Wyatt was in his first year, and like everyone fantasized about that match, and I just think it kind of fizzled. You know what I mean? And I think it was more about Taker getting his confidence back, and we kind of know this from the Last Ride documentary, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm obviously ignoring the most important and most memorable part of WrestleMania 31, which is the incredible main event. And anyone who tells me that Roman Reigns isn't a main event guy, I mean, how anyone can look at 2020 and say that with a straight face now, I don't know. But say it was 2019 and somebody's trying to say that Roman Reigns shouldn't be in WrestleMania main events. I'm perfectly aware that he has actually headlined WrestleMania on another occasion with Brock, and it's been a bit of a stinker. But this was such an exciting match, and that's not even talking about the finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
So exciting. And after that, dreadful Royal Rumble, that's saying something. It was a real success story that they managed to do that, because Lesnar hadn't really lost properly, since the Taker victory the previous year. He hadn't lost at all, I don't think. So, he'd become really dominant at that point. In the year between 30 and 31, Suplex City had been born, and Lesnar had gone from being a guy who's hard to beat to the guy who doesn't get beat. So it was really interesting to see how they were going to do it, and I loved it. I've rambled a lot though. This is your favorite WrestleMania, or one of your favorites?
Yeah, it's not my favorite WrestleMania ever. I'd say it's probably top 5 though. I'd probably put it maybe number 5 on the top 5 list. Favorite WrestleManias ever. And I'll tell you why. I was told by so many people online and in my real life and everything in between, any wrestling fan that I stumbled across between January of 2015 till the last day in March 2015 when this WrestleMania was. And I was told that this was going to be factually the worst WrestleMania of all time. I was told this, Glenn. It wasn't like a predicting. It will be. There's no saying the matter just because the way the company is. Reigns and Lesnar, it just isn't going to work, and they're trying to push Reigns too quickly. And you saw what happened at the Royal Rumble, and Seth Rollins deserves better than Randy Orton. And why is Stardust in this ladder match? And why is this Rusev's just going to get squashed by Cena, and Sting versus Triple H is just going to be a burial of WCW? This is what I was told, and I'm going into thinking that, like, not obviously not agreeing with them, but just thinking, okay, it's going to be, this is what everybody's expecting, and I love when that happens, when there's a clear expectation, and then of course it goes the other way. Maybe not, in terms of the streak, but I mean, but just this whole WrestleMania, I was just sitting there with my expectations pretty much the lowest they'd ever been for WrestleMania. And I was just blown away. I remember going to bed that night at 4 in the morning or something, literally shaking because I was so excited and so buzzing after that WrestleMania. And I was texting my friend Fraser, just being like, Framble, can you believe how good that WrestleMania was? And he was like, I wasn't expecting it to be so good, and it was. And it was like, he was buzzing for it as well. And it was just a good thing. And then so Triple H and Sting, right? People still don't like that match because of what it is. And people say it is a burial of WCW and stuff. And I just don't agree with that at all. I mean, maybe Sting should have won the match. Maybe. It's his first, thing. But we also need to remember that it is WrestleMania that the match was taking place on. Vince is still very much in that mindset that it is still, WWE versus everybody else. Even WCW that's been out of business for so many years. And that's Vince's mindset.
Me, man? Like, they say it's the burial of Sting and burial of WCW, but I'm sorry, Sting is well into his late 50s by that point.
Exactly.
He's already an established star, and he took Triple H and he had a competitive match with him. I agree with the decision for Triple H to win. And even though I was rooting for Sting as the fan who cheers the baby faces, right? But I agree with the victory because we all knew then, as we know now, that Triple H had more matches in him than Sting did at that point. Sting had one more pay-per-view match after that. Maybe he would have had some more had he not got hurt, but it wouldn't have been many because he was definitely winding down at that point. And so, like, it just made sense for Triple H to stay that little bit more credible. And Sting was an established star. Yeah, he'd never been in a WWE ring, but he'd been built up. He was a veteran. He was old, and he didn't come out of that looking rubbish at all.
I remember
what beat him? Shenanigans and a sledgehammer shot. That's not looking weak. That's not looking weak at all.
And it's not supposed to be a burial at all because it's more like a showcase of that time. because you've
Yeah.
got the NWO thing and stuff like that, and then the DX thing, like when X Pac and Billy Gunn and Road Dogg came out, right? I thought that was it, and then when Sean came out, I remember going mental. I didn't expect Sean to be there because like he didn't come out with the others, you know.
Hmm.
It's just such a fun match. I remember my cousin, who I've talked about before, who it was kind of like the reason I became a wrestling fan, who hadn't really been watching wrestling that much at that point. It was probably his last year of watching the kind of the main pay-per-views and stuff. He'd watch
Yeah.
Undertaker stuff and whatever, you know. But I remember when Sting came out of that Survivor Series, and he was like, "I saw Sting came out of Survivor Series. Oh, he's looking old."
Yeah.
That's what he said to
Yep.
me. He's getting on a bit, and I was like, I know, but he still can go. He can still have good matches. He was wrestling AJ Styles a few years before that and having really good
Hmm.
matches. I just love that match. I love Sting's entrance. I love how it is very apparent that it is Sting's first time coming out at WrestleMania. I love things like that. Like they've got this
Yeah.
mad weird like Asian drum team for
Yeah.
this weird music that he's got, and he just comes out and he just looks amazing. He's got the Sting gear on. He's got the big red jacket. I just think it looks
Yeah.
brilliant. And then of course the match happens, and it's full of theatrics, as you say, and it's so much fun. Then of course we have the greatest RKO of all time, in my opinion. This
Mm.
maybe a close second, maybe would be the Jeff Hardy one at Royal Rumble 08. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously the Cena Rusev thing, I understand it was Rusev's first loss and stuff like that, but it was John Cena at WrestleMania. It's not as if you could get much
Exactly.
better than that. You know what I mean?
And again, it's not as if he got like squashed by him.
He came out in a tank. He came out in a
Yeah.
tank, a literal tank.
Like you can make wider comments about Rusev's time in WWE and whether or not he was used correctly. I think we can all agree that near the end there was a bit of wasted potential there. But I'm just now optimistic about Miro in AEW,
I
and
love him.
I'm hoping.
Oh,
I love what he's doing right now, but I do kind of like, not to digress too much, but I do kind of want him to eventually, maybe sooner rather than later, break out and get into the world title scene, because
absolutely. I think he will.
he looks better than he ever has done. Like, he is in such great shape. He could be a real monster, but it's great to just see that wee bit of variety from him, and you
Yeah.
can tell that he just bloody loves whatever he's doing. He'll do
Yeah.
anything. He
The
just loves
best
it, I
man.
think.
He's not just that. He's not just the best man for the job. He is the best man.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
proper.
He's so funny. I've got so much time for him. And then I know we're kind of digressing here too much, but Undertaker and Bray Wyatt, I understand people's frustration with it, but I mean, it's just Taker it's a showcase for Taker. I guess it's Wyatt probably wasn't the best one to have a showcase against, but Wyatt was in a big, high-profile match. Again, it's not a burial losing to the Undertaker at WrestleMania. And I know what people say. I've heard it so many times about like how the sunlight and stuff takes away from the entrances, but I just like how it's different, you know, like
Yeah.
Undertaker ever came out in daylight, you know, it's just funny. And then that main event is one of my favourite wrestling matches ever, because people were saying how it wasn't going to work and Roman's just going to beat him in 5 minutes and it's going to be this disgrace. And the two of them just kick lumps at each other. It's one of the more brutal and like violent wrestling matches that doesn't contain weapons, or, you know, it's not meant to be really violent. It just is, and it's brutal and it's stiff. And then this big swerve at the end that no one saw coming. I just think it's the perfect WrestleMania, with a great opener, a great main event, loads of shockers. The Rock segment with Ronda Rousey is hilarious.
Yeah.
And so nice to see The Rock and Ronda Rousey in the same ring. Oh yeah, I loved it WrestleMania a lot. And if I feel like at WrestleMania time, we're getting to the point now where there's far too many WrestleManias to kind of do the tradition of watching back them all and watching back the best moments and stuff. So if I had to kind of cherry pick ones to watch, I will always go to 31. I don't know why. It's just one of those shows I love and will always love, and can't recommend. I'm not even recommending this week, but if I was, I'd recommend the whole show of WrestleMania 31. So it's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded together, because we taped a couple in preparation for just the hecticness of life. How are you doing with work,
Yep.
with your busyness, and with your mental health?
Oh, well, wow, that's a big question. So starting off with work is going well. I actually think, you know, linking everything, you know, busyness and mental health and work, I think it's, and this is saying something, knowing that I'm working in a volatile situation, and like everyone's mental health is subject to change, subject to change. But it's going well. Every day you're kind of aware that you're at risk. But I guess society is right now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so all you can do as a teacher is just make sure you're being consistent and following the rules, doing your best to make sure the kids around you follow the rules, and it is. I'm only speaking for myself because I'm sure there are plenty of teachers who are maybe who wouldn't agree with this statement, and that's fine. But for me, once you kind of get into the swing of like wearing the masks and cleaning the
Yeah.
surfaces, you can, in isolated moments, forget that there's a virus, not to the extent that you're being complacent and not distancing. What I mean is
Yeah, I think that's
you're
fair.
teaching a lesson and it just feels like normal school. So that's been good. But
You
yeah,
know
it's
what?
been
I'm
very
actually,
busy.
in terms of you're talking about wiping down surfaces and stuff, right? Which
Mhm.
might wouldn't even have crossed your mind before as a teacher. Like it's just in the classroom, you don't have to wipe down everything, but now you kind of do.
Mhm.
I don't even second guess it anymore. Like it's I can't even remember a time. Like I've been in my work recently doing this wee sort of video project thing, and every room I'm in, I'm like sanitizing 3 times
Yeah,
within the one space and wiping down everything I touch, just second nature. I can't even imagine not doing that now. I
yeah,
don't know if that's just me.
and this is it. But my pupils are the same. It's like things that were once very simple now have that extra dimension to it. But that in itself has become simple. When this all started and when they announced the schools would reopen in August, I was like, wait, well, how do I give out a pen? It's not
Yeah,
going to be disruptive,
right.
but now it's simple. Like I have like we are well stocked with like gel and stuff like that in the school. So I have
Yeah,
like little stations in my classroom. So if a kid needs a pen, it's like, okay, go up and grab one, gel your hands first, then grab the pen, then put it back, gel your hands again, and
yeah.
wipe things down. And it just becomes routine. They just like they know what to expect it. And I think we're all the same that way. Um, I would also say, like, because I've now been at that school for a number of months, I'm only really starting to feel established now. And like, obviously, we're a couple of weeks. Like our recording date is a week or two behind when this actually goes out.
Yeah.
But we recently celebrated Halloween in the school.
I loved
Um,
your costume. I loved it.
yeah, so if Chris will have seen it on social media and stuff. So I dressed up as Voldemort, and I
Can't
made.
careful. Don't just go about saying his name.
Ah,
Jesus.
sorry. You'll need to bleep that. um, uh, I'll you should totally bleep that. No, I dressed up as the villain from Harry Potter. Okay,
He who
I'll
should
not
not
say
be
his name
named.
again. He who should not be named. And I may or may not have spent lunchtimes and breaks just wandering about as Voldemort. I mean, sorry,
I love it.
as he who not should be named, just kind of like not deliberately giving people frights, but sometimes that was inevitable. And getting people, taking videos of me as I walked by, and I would do the
Yeah.
walk. You know how when Voldemort has his wand and he has this weird sort of scuffle that he does. I would walk about like that because I had this big gown on, so I'd be like, kind of moving about, scuffling about,
God,
and
we're such nerds.
yeah, and oh my god, it caused such like hilarity at breaks and lunchtimes. And the funny thing is, my first year class are studying the first Harry Potter book right now, so it means I've got something to kind of refer back to in the
Well, I'm
lessons.
currently reading the
Uh,
third Harry Potter book right now, and I'm loving it. So there you go.
Excellent. I'm glad. But the reason I bring it up is because I'm talking about being established at school, and it was just so funny, like having kids going like, "Is that Mr. Fraser? No, aye, it is. See its glasses. You gone blind. He's wearing his
No
glasses.
way. No
He's not
way.
tall enough to be Mr. Fraser. No, it's not. No, it's so and so. Like, so I thought it was just brilliant. I loved it. I was like the most fun I've had wearing a mask in a long time. Put it that
Right,
way.
right, right. Yeah.
But then I realised I was walking about wearing two masks because I had the
Of
Voldemort
course.
mask and then a face mask over that.
No, but Voldemort needs to wear masks as well. He has to keep safe. He's only just returned.
Oh
sorry,
dear.
sorry, sorry. Anyway, remember I was supposed to talk about wrestling.
How are you, Chris?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for asking. This week has been very productive for me because I've been back working for a couple of months now, but I've been doing. I'm like goody two shoes, man. I'm doing all this extra work and stuff, and I'm the one they call upon to do things. So I've been very fortunate to being able to do some projects and stuff in my spare time over the past couple of months. But in terms of actually starting back my actual job, it has been this past week. And it has been lovely. It was slightly stressful because a lot of my work involves a lot of presentations, a lot of public speaking, a lot of speaking in front of groups,
Yeah.
keeping energy up, keeping people entertained for a good 6 hour day. That kind of what happens in my normal work. I mean, obviously, we can't do that in person,
Yeah.
so we're having to do it remotely, and just it's taken a while to kind of get the system set up. And I was going to be one of the first people to try out the new kind of system and stuff. And on the test runs, I've been really disappointed with my connection and stuff with my laptop and the microphone, that sort of thing. So I did a bit of a rejig. I've moved some lights around. I bought like a ring light to sit here, and I'll be using the podcast mic for work and that sort of thing. And after I kind of got all that set up and I just felt more comfortable with my surroundings, it really helped.
Yeah.
And I just felt really good. This past week was really good. It was a successful first go around. And I'm looking forward to getting back into a proper routine in this coming week. So, the way just because that happened, it was like, okay, good. Now we're kind of back to, I know it's not normality. I know it's a completely different setting to what I'm used to with work. But just because I was doing it and because I was feeling productive, I just felt like one more step back to normality, which is very, very nice. And I feel like those wee steps have been coming throughout the year.
Yeah.
First time we've been able to go back to a restaurant or go out for drinks and then back to work and all that stuff. They're coming one step at a time, and some things are being halted and put back a few steps, but they're all coming. So hopefully when we all get back to normal, when we get some sort of vaccine and we can go out to parties and wrestling events and concerts again one day, I hope we can report on them right here on episode 147
I mean, that's
of the
it.
Wrestling Connection.
It's going to be a while, isn't it? Because we've been saying since April when we first started this, like, God, when it all kicks off again,
maybe we'll get SummerSlam in front of a crowd.
Yeah, maybe. Jesus, I mean, God, how naive. But I just think that, but it still rings true. Like, the longer, like, we're without those sorts of luxuries, the more you just know you want to savor them if we do get them back. So I'm hoping, like, I realized the other day when I was thinking about the podcast, we will quite possibly and quite easily go a year without seeing each other, because to say that we're still not all vaccinated by March is very sound and reasonable to say.
And
man. You know what I mean? Like, so we'll be remote for a while. I can't remember what you look like. As far as I'm concerned, I'm talking to the wee cartoon that comes up on my phone when I listen to the podcast.
Yes. Yeah. I remember what you look like, though, just when you're dressed as he who should not be named. So what have you been watching this week? Have you been trying to stay on top of some wrestling stuff, or have you been too busy with work?
So here's the thing. I have been historically too busy for wrestling over the last few months, especially since moving house and stuff, and then with work. But now that I'm settled in the house and I've got a routine in my house, the real question, Chris, is what haven't I been watching?
Oh, I like it. This is good.
So I've got a wee routine. I've got a good routine now because I've also bought myself a new tablet for like work, but obviously I've downloaded all the streaming services on it, obviously.
Yeah.
So one thing I have not got in my house is a dishwasher, which we did have in the old flat that we had. We don't have one now, and we one day when money is a thing again, we might get one. But for now, it's fine. I can wash the dishes.
I love a dishwasher.
I love washing dishes. I like.
Yeah, it's very therapeutic, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and I watch wrestling constantly, and so I've managed to catch up on all the AEW and a lot of the NXT that I've missed, and so now, excuse me, and now so there's two sides to this, right? So now, like, I'll watch wrestling all the time when I'm doing something like which is really just me on my own, unless I'm having a wee bit of mindfulness or some meditation or whatever. Like, if I'm doing dishes, wrestling's on. If I'm working up in the Glendon where I'm sitting now, wrestling's on. I've got NXT on in the background right now on mute. If you name it, anything that doesn't involve me like talking to another human being, like my wife or whatever, I've usually got wrestling on in some capacity, and I love it because wrestling's so easy just to tune in and out of, and you never feel like you've missed that much if you do. But the funny thing is, one thing I do have in my house, which I didn't have in my old flat, is a bath. And I bloody love a bath, Chris. I love candles, I love bubbles, I love, you know what I mean? Like the whole 9 yards, okay? And
I've not had a bath, and I'm going to say about 4 years. I'm too big for the bath.
Well, we're about the same height, but you can make it work. And listen, showers are practical and easy, and I like a good shower, especially when I'm working and stuff. It's not whilst I'm working, but for the practicality and ease. But sometimes, you come home in the evening or maybe on a Saturday.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
it's nice and it's a really good way to unwind. And now, pretty much every night, Chris, when I come in from work,
lovely
bath. But do you know what happens? You know what I end up like? Do you know the WrestleMania 17 intro package where it's everybody all over the world and there's a one guy sitting in his bath and he's got this tiny wee telly? Do you know what I mean? And he's watching like Shawn Michaels and the Boyhood Dream or something like that. That's like me because my iPad's not my iPad. It's a Galaxy tablet I've got is propped up on the bathroom sink at a perfect height and angle for me to sit in the bath,
Oh,
relax, and watch wrestling. And I have to have the window open because otherwise everything steams up. But it's gorgeous, and the amount of wrestling I've watched while sitting pruning in the bath is unreal this week. But it's what I look forward to unwind, because often
absolutely.
when I come in, my wife is working. Like our hours are like that way, so it's not usually till about 7 or 8 some nights where I can actually then go and hang out with my wife. So for those hours in between, it's get the soap and the bubbles going, get the candles on, get a wee bit of Impact Wrestling on. It's great. I absolutely love it. So I have watched so much wrestling this week, and I'll be a bit more specific when I come to recommend stuff. But yeah, man, I'm back into full on wrestling addict. Like after a few months off. At what?
Do you fall asleep at all in the bath, or are you able to stay awake?
No, I don't fall asleep mainly because I like to live.
Yes.
And I fear drowning. If I'm ever so sleepy that I wouldn't bother with the bath.
I love that. Good.
But it's hard to fall asleep with such pulsating action.
Of course, of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Well, that's good then. I'm glad you've been able to watch stuff. That's good. I was getting worried about you overworking yourself and not getting to have your wrestling time. So that's very good you've been able to catch up.
What about you? What have you been up to? What wrestling wise?
Yeah, pretty much the same as my usual. It is, the outlet for me to chill out as well as wrestling. I said that, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but I like to have my dinner and then watch wrestling after dinner. That's a routine I'm into. I also like to watch it when I first wake up in the morning, and really a lot of people are confused by that because it's not really the most delightful thing to wake up to, but to me it is. It gets me started with my day. On a Tuesday morning, I'm always watching the Raw highlights, and Thursday mornings have always kind of been a wrestling time for me, because I don't know if you remember back in like 2015, 16 sort of time when NXT was just like the best and the number one priority of all my week's events. It used to be on the WWE Network on a Wednesday night, but obviously it would be on at like 8 o'clock US time, so it was about 1 o'clock in the morning here. So I would always watch it on a Thursday morning. But when I was in drama school, I didn't start college until I think 2 in the afternoon or something on a Thursday. So I would wake up on a Thursday morning and watch NXT and then go to drama school. So it was like this routine I had every week. So now I have like trained myself to watch wrestling on a Thursday morning. And what's lovely about that is now Wednesday nights is like the busiest week or busiest day of the week for wrestling, as both NXT and AEW is on. So on a Thursday morning, I'm like wrestling galore. I get up nice and early on a Thursday morning. I mean, obviously this has been when I've not been working, but and I've been able to watch Dynamite and stuff. It's funny because this past Thursday I was working and I didn't get to finish watching Dynamite until the following Saturday. But I do like that routine, so I've just been trying to stick in that. Watching as much as I can. It does tend to chill me out. I have been trying to watch some films and that sort of thing because I'm in this kind of kick right now where I just want an opinion on everything. I want to watch all of the shows. I want to watch all of the movies. I want to listen to all of the music. I want to know something about everything, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to cut down on some of the wrestling viewing and sticking on a Netflix show or something. But it is just it's not as good.
No, this is it. The only non-wrestling media that I've enjoyed in the last week is the new season of The Mandalorian, and that's it.
Yeah, me too.
Which I love. We'll need to start a new podcast for Star Wars or something. I don't know, but
The Mandalorian Connection with Kristen Glenn.
That's too much, isn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't really work, does it? It doesn't roll off the tongue. But yeah, so other than that, nothing too major. Just been trying to stick on top of my sort of like pay-per-view watch through, my actually did a watch through, whatever I'm in the mood for. But I'm telling you something, I started this sort of Ruthless Aggression watch through back during lockdown just because I wanted to watch some of the pay-per-views, and it got way out of hand. And I started watching one a day, and I was on like a big hot streak, and obviously that slowed down, but I'm still kind of just progressively moving on to the next one,
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe change it up a little bit, because now we're getting to like 2011 and I'm like, I don't know if I'm really, that fussed about watching it. I'd like to watch the Punk and Bryan stuff though, from 2011 and 2012.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could put myself through WrestleMania 27 and stuff right now. But I guess it's not as if it's like sitting down and really watching it, intently, as you say. You can just put it on in the background. But I'm thinking about going back to more like 2006 sort of time, 5, 6. I don't know why. Maybe it's because some of the podcasts that I listen to have been covering that time period recently, but I don't know. I'm just kind of in the mood for that. So maybe that's what I'll go to soon, and some of my recommendations will come from that time frame. So who knows? Just been trying to stay in the wrestling bubble. with new stuff and old stuff, just so I have some material to talk about here on the Wrestling Connection. So shall we move on and shall we do some segments right here on episode 31?
Question though.
Yeah.
Bit of a digression, but just answer it quickly. Let's not go into a big thing about this. But is Daniel Bryan Punk's greatest rival, or is it Cena, or is it someone else?
Like CM Punk's greatest rival.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's Cena.
Yeah.
Just off the top of my head, Daniel Bryan would be second or third.
Maybe Joe.
Joe, yeah, but they didn't have anything major in WWE.
Yeah.
I think that counts. I think a great rival has to be, different years and different eras and that sort of thing. Like, I know Punk and Cena only wrestled over a few years, but it happened over, so much changed in that time,
The significance of their feud, as short as it was. Because, Austin only was on his top form for 3 years, but the significance of Punk and Cena can be understated.
Yeah, it's just like The Rock is Austin's greatest rival, but it only happened over a couple of years, But good question. What do you think? Who do you think is Daniel Bryan's best rival?
Oh, well, you see, here's the thing. Like, most of my Bryan knowledge is WWE, and so he had this rich history of independent wrestling for years and years and years before he even got to WWE. So I know there's probably a lot of people who'd point to his Ring of Honor stuff and maybe make some great suggestions, but Daniel Bryan's greatest rival, I'm going to say it's probably Punk, maybe Orton.
Interesting.
Or Triple H, maybe probably, but certainly I can only really confine this to WWE, so it's probably Punk or Triple H, not because they had a great series of matches, Bryan and Triple H, because they only had the one, but again,
great
the significance of it. The significance of it was so important.
I don't know. It's a hard question. I think Daniel Bryan, I'm just thinking about it now, it's not as if he's had a really long feud with anybody other than the Authority.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of good matches with so many people. It's hard for Daniel Bryan to have a bad match. But just when you think about it, it's like, the AJ Styles stuff was good, but that was only a couple months. And then, the Sheamus stuff was really good, but that was only a couple months. So I don't know. That's a good question.
I love. I don't know why I'm not recommending this, but I love Bryan and Sheamus Extreme Rules 2012.
It's a great one, isn't it? It's a great one. Yeah. Well, let's take a break then. Let's go for a toilet break, and then when we come back, you can recommend us a nice new match then.
Sounds good. See you soon, my friend. Cue jingle.
Toilet break.
Oh yeah. What do you make of Tucker turning heel?
Oh God, yeah, because that was a Hell in a Cell, wasn't it? Probably the right thing to do. Although I'm interested though by it, because I kind of thought by them taking the briefcase of Otis, they were kind of saying, right, we're just going to go back to the tag team, but maybe they still realize that there's fun to be had with Otis as a single star, maybe just not as a main eventer. You know what I mean?
They should put Tucker with Miz and Morrison and have Tucker as like their bodyguard, but like a dafty.
Yeah, whatever they do with them, I think it's the right thing, because otherwise he's always going to be a wee bit in Otis's shadow.
Yeah.
And this way he's got a good chance of because with the Hardy Boys, that was what it was for Matt for so long. And it was only when they broke them apart that you could actually see why Matt, is so special.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll leave this bit in because this is wrestling talk. So we're back, everyone. I did just say that you're going to recommend me a match, but do you know what? This is my show just as much as it is your show, right?
Okay.
And I'm thankful for that. So I'm going to do a 180 here, and we'll do my segment first, and then your segment, and then I'll do Meet a Wrestler after. So I'm not talking for the whole time. Does that make sense?
To me, my friend. Yes.
What I'm thankful for in wrestling this week.
Oh yeah. Okay, so this one isn't going to take very long to explain, but I'm thankful this week for videos that are posted online that were captured by fans at live events, but before it was the norm to be live events, to have videos from live events, right? So the reason I'm thinking about this is because I was on Instagram recently and I saw a clip of Eddie Guerrero's entrance from One Night Stand 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And someone has filmed his entrance, right? I always think about Eddie Guerrero's entrance at that show being really cool because it was just when he turned heel.
Yeah.
And he came out with his cool heel music and stuff and didn't do, I'm ECW now. He stayed to the character,
Yeah.
And he came out and he wrestled Benoit that night, and people say it's a letdown of a match or whatever. I think it's all right, but whatever. But he comes out. I always thought the entrance was really cool, and there's like a cool perspective of it on YouTube of someone that's filmed it from the crowd, and I just thought that's so cool.
Yeah.
You know, in 2005, how often were people able to film stuff at shows? You see it all the time now. You can search it right now, and you'll be able to find 16 videos from the Royal Rumble this past year of Edge's return.
Chris Moffat. First of all, I don't know your middle name or if you have one, so I'd middle name you if I could.
Middle name is John.
Christopher Jonathan Moffater. Yesterday, I was sitting on the couch watching a compilation of fan shot videos of Edge's return at the Royal Rumble.
Wow. Well, I can read you like a book, if you will, if the book was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
And at 2 meters distance.
And 2 meters distance. Yeah. You know what I mean, though? There's so many, and I love doing that. I feel like I can stay up till loads of, like 3 in the morning, right? When I'm trying to get an early night, and I just so happen to go on YouTube at, say, 12 and think, I'll just check YouTube before I go to bed. And I say early night, you know what I mean? Try to get to bed at a good time. And I might find a video of, say, Becky Lynch's entrance at WrestleMania 35, right? Yeah. Someone that's taken it from the stands, and I watch that. And then, like, on the recommendations after that, there's loads of them. And I'll just go on this rabbit hole and just watch live. There's something about it, like just hearing the reaction as if you were there and hearing the music and stuff like that and seeing it from that person's perspective. I love that. So you never really see them of these old shows and stuff. So I find it really fascinating. There's actually a YouTube channel called like Wrestling Rarities, I think it's called. And it's just like uploads videos that you wouldn't normally see. And it's like maybe Bret Hart doing a signing in 96 or something like that. And there was one yesterday I saw of Undertaker and Bret Hart wrestling at a house show in some mad country. Excuse me, the week before Survivor Series 97. So it was Bret's last singles match in WWE before Montreal. Wow. And it was like filmed from the crowd, and it's funny to see that, right? And there's like this famous one of like a fan attacking Stone Cold at a house show.
Oh yeah.
And like it's Austin versus Triple H in like 96 or 97. And a fan jumps in and attacks Austin, and like Triple H jumps up and tries to save Austin and stuff. And Errol Hebner just starts kicking the guy in the head. Mm-hmm. Like all that stuff. Like I just find it really interesting seeing it from that point of view because you never see it. So that Eddie video, One Night Stand, and that fan attack in Austin, and any ones that I find, because I've done it before as well. I've filmed clips at live events and stuff. I posted loads of videos from when we were at Raw at the Hydro in Glasgow in 2016, and they've got like thousands of views. Unfortunately, it doesn't go towards my monetization on YouTube because the songs are copyrighted, but I digress. But yeah, like, so I like doing that as well. I like providing that entertainment because I love watching them myself. But there's just something more interesting and more exciting, and I'm very thankful for that. If it's older clips, stuff from 2001, 2002, 2003, that you just never would, imagine seeing. I would love to see clips from WrestleMania 19 filmed from the crowd, seeing Austin's last entrance and all that stuff, That would be amazing. So if anybody finds any clips...
You got to know there's probably, like, that way that people still find, like, in their granny's attic, like, old video footage of, like, a Beatles concert that we didn't know we had.
Absolutely.
And it's the same way, like, WrestleMania 19 is a good example because, phones only just had, like, photo cameras on them in 2003. Like, you could take pictures, but videos wasn't something that you could do. But plenty of people had camcorders. So there is bound to be somebody in that stadium doing it, who has the footage and is sitting on it, hopefully hasn't wiped it. I mean, I'm also thinking of, obviously this is a photograph, but that you posted this or shared it on Twitter a few months ago, the amazing picture of Edge spearing Jeff Hardy in TLC 2.
Oh, yeah.
And it's taken from the audience. So, like, I would extend it to photographs as well. Just
absolutely,
because if it's like an intriguing photograph and it's not the polished sort of WWE produced image, it's really interesting. Just to see it, because it's like the Edge spear is something that we've only ever really seen from the one or two camera angles over and over again. So to see it from a different perspective is just mind blowing. It makes me feel like if somebody showed me a video of Mick Foley coming off the cell, or like a photo of him. Like, I was just like, that would be so cool to see, even if it was quite.
Yeah, I saw a picture. I don't know if it was BT that posted it on their thing, but it was like a different perspective, and it was like a shot I've never seen before, and it's like someone in the front row behind the commentators, and it's like just as Foley left the roof of the cell, and it's like just so funny and interesting to see it from that perspective. One I can think about right now, I was watching the other day, was Edge and Undertaker's entrances at WrestleMania 24.
Yeah.
And seeing like Taker's entrance in 2008, like people still in his prime and still like looking at him as this legend.
Yeah.
And then like Metalingus playing in the Citrus Bowl in Orlando, like just so cool. But the quality of that video isn't great because obviously it was filmed on someone's phone or whatever.
Yeah.
But like this video of Eddie at One Night Stand 05 is like great quality. So that must have been like from like a camcorder or whatever. You know, some people have like snuck cameras in and filmed full house shows from like 97 and stuff. And that's mental to think about. The only time I've ever done that, right? So I've always been very guilty of filming stuff on my phone. I feel like a lot of people and a lot of security guards and stuff at these shows are a lot more lax about it now because everybody does it and it's so easy to do it now. But back in the day, I remember being at like WWE shows and stuff, and I would have my phone, I'd be trying to film like wee parts for YouTube. Not as if I'd be filming loads of stuff, but I just film wee bits here and there. And I would like, every so often, I would like bring the phone down as if I was taking a picture. You know, just so that if the security guard saw me, they thought I was just taking a picture, but it looked so obvious and stuff, you know. But I did it one time. It was at the TNA show that you were at in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
And it was during, I think it might have been like the Beautiful People entrance or someone's entrance. And I just thought, I took my camera with me. I just thought, well, I wonder if like, what's the worst that could happen? You know what I mean? And I would never do that now because I'd be terrified to do it now, but I must have been braver when I was younger. And I just took the camera and I sort of like filmed it. I think it was like Gail Kim or something like that. And I was filming it for about 30 seconds. And within 30 seconds, the security guard was right over at me, telling me to put it away. Like it was like very vigilant, you know. And it, like I wasn't this massive camera. It was like a kind of smaller camera, but it obviously didn't look like a phone, you know. And it was very obvious that I wasn't taking a picture. So recently, I bought this like HDLR Canon camera for YouTube and stuff. And I've never taken it out to like a show or something. I wonder if I was to go to a WWE show, and I mean, it's a camera for pictures, and I would take pictures with it, but I would wonder if like people would tell me to put it away because it's not a phone and it's an actual camera. You see cameras like that all the time on WWE, but I just wonder what the security guard's perspective would be nowadays, you know?
I mean, the rule of thumb at WWE shows is photographs, yes, videos, no. As much as you can't really police that. That's always been the rule. And you know, my story for that is from like the Paul Heyman show, Inside the Ropes, in 2016. Listeners,
I always feel bad filming it Inside the Ropes shows.
Well, this is the thing. You shouldn't do it, and I would never do it again. In 2016, I didn't know the brand as much, and I knew it was against the rules, but equally there was no security kind of stopping it. So let me preface this quick story with like the firm conviction, and I say this not just because I'm hoping that we can get Kenny McIntosh on the show, but just because, as a matter of principle, they are right to be vigilant and to be protective of their product and their intellectual property because their 100%. Shows are their content and that's their income. So if somebody uploads it, then you're taking money from them because if you upload their clip, even if you don't monetize it, even if you just put it up for free, which is what I did. That means there's a chance that less people will watch their version of it, which is the definitive version. So I feel bad about this story, but I'm going to share it because it's quite an interesting one, I think.
Yeah.
And you know, I've actually been at Inside the Rope shows more recently where like people near me or in front of me have been filming and I've seen like Ollie, who is one of their guys, who does one of their podcasts actually like get right involved and, you know, tell people like, I need to see you delete that now. And I just think fair enough because, you know, it's your product, it's your show, and you have the right to control your content. So with that in mind, though, the Paul Heyman Inside the Rope show was maybe my third Inside the Rope show. And I think prior to that had been Colt Cabana and Sonny had been the two that I'd been to. So this was a kind of upgrade in terms of star power.
And, don't say.
Yeah. And I actually filmed a few clips that night. But I managed to get my phone out just at the right time when this really drunk guy started heckling Paul Heyman. And because Heyman was telling a story about the streak ending. And
that's right, yeah.
This guy started saying that he was talking rubbish. And I just filmed him at the point where Heyman absolutely slaughtered this guy. And the guy got kicked out and everyone cheered. And it was a great 45-second clip. And I uploaded it to YouTube the next day. And then I got a comment or an email or some sort of contact from Raj Gurry, who's from WrestlingInc.com. And he asking if he could put the video up on Thingway. And by this point, I'd already uploaded it and said, this is from the Inside the Rope show, great show. And then before I knew it, like my video was being ripped and taken and put on every website. It was on Reddit, and like there was so many not pirated because I was flipping pirating by filming it.
Yeah.
There's so many like rips of it and stuff all over YouTube, and like there's still a couple versions of it to this day, even though my version is now gone. And it got something like 250,000 views, like really quickly. And it was on wrestling news websites. Paul Heyman destroys a heckler in Glasgow, and I'm happy that I never monetized it or never attempted to monetize it, because that really would be theft. But I still feel guilty that, you know, that should have been them uploading that clip, and they did upload their own version of it actually.
Yeah.
But I felt guilty about it. So apologies to Inside the Ropes, but that was like a weird experience.
Yeah.
For me to have that moment where I felt like everybody was looking at my YouTube channel. And to this day, I still have subscribers on my YouTube channel who probably subscribed for wrestling content when all I do now is upload video lessons for my classes. You know?
Yeah, that's funny. This is your public apology to ITR. We love your magazine, by the way.
The video has been taken down, and I don't condone it, and I don't endorse it in any way.
Yeah, well, there you go. Good shout. That's what I'm thankful for this week. Clips from wrestling events from back in the day when it wasn't the norm to film at wrestling shows. There you go.
That's a great one.
You want to recommend us a match quickly?
I do, yeah. Hit the jingle.
Wrestling recommendations, wrestling recommendations, wrestling recommendations. Match of the week.
Oh, yeah. So for this week, a bit of a break from my usual in that I'm going to go for a more recent match, and I'm going to go for a promotion that I don't think we've covered yet for recommend a match. What's it called? Recommendation wrestling
match of the week.
Match of the week. So I don't think we've done anything from Impact / TNA, have we?
I don't think so. I think I mentioned I watched a couple of shows on Impact Plus, but I don't think we've recommended anything.
So, Chris, the context here is, and I've said this to you privately via text message, I think, or I've alluded to it. Obviously, like my favorite wrestling promotion of all time is the WWE, and that will always be the case. But my favorite current promotion right now, without a moment of hesitation, without any doubt whatsoever, is Impact Wrestling.
I love that.
I have, particularly in the past 2 weeks, fallen in love with Impact Wrestling. Now, I know a few episodes ago I was going on about how I liked the presentation, because I think I was talking about the Kurt Hawkins Eddie Edwards match that was on Impact a couple months ago.
That was a good match. Yeah.
But since then, I've watched Bound for Glory, and I thought, you know what, Impact will be thinking about the Impact there. Pardon the pun, but Impact will be thinking about the impact which Slammiversary had, and how they probably got a few extra new eyes on their product.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I really hope that Impact Wrestling are going to use Bound for Glory to really, show everyone what they're all about and get some new eyes on their product and make me want to see the next episode of Impact. And boy, did they deliver, my friend. So my recommendation this week is the main event from that show. And it's hard to pick because there's lots of great matches in that show. But my personal favorite, I know you love the tag match, but my personal favorite was Rich Swann and Eric Young for the heavyweight championship. I just thought, for a match with no crowd, no can noise, no developmental talent, they told an amazing story. It was an incredible match. The character work was excellent, particularly on Eric Young's part. I look at that match and I think there's that potential that was never tapped into in his brief WWE stint, in those
Isn't
few
that
years.
crazy?
And then not even when he was in NXT do I think he got the full kind of exposure that he should have had. And the guy is just gold. He's so engaging to watch, and he's great in the ring. And Rich Swann is brilliant, although I kind of want him to get more serious music now, but that's another matter altogether.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But I just loved the match, and I am now a subscriber to Impact Plus because of that show. I then go on to watch the follow-up episode of Impact, and they've started Who Shot Johnny Bravo storyline. And I just thought...
I can't decide whether I hate him or love him. I think I love him.
I love everything and everyone to do with Impact, but I just like Bravo. Pardon the pun, Bravo. Remember when Impact was on Bravo? Bravo.
And his name is Bravo.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Bravo, bravo on Bravo.
What is happening? Like
Sorry.
it's so the Who shot kind of storyline. Who shot Gr? Who shot Mr. Burns? Like it's been done so much, and who shot Phil Mitchell? But it's the one of the best, and I love it. I absolutely love it because it's clearly now a promotion which knows when to take itself seriously and knows when not to. Do you know what I mean? And it's just
Yeah.
it was a joy to watch. It was a joy to see Ken Shamrock in such good nick and have a decent match. It was a joy to see Rock the Dwayne Johnson induct him into the Hall of Fame.
How
It was
mental was it to see
Rock-
the Impact logo next to The Rock talking?
Coming up next, The Rock. You know, it's just bizarre. Can you imagine that happening? 15 years ago. So long may it continue, and I'll be intrigued to see how long I stay a subscriber. But they've hooked me. I'm intrigued by the characters. Don't know much about where the storylines have been before now, but I'm into it. I'm a big Kurt Hawkins fan. Brian Myers. So it's great to see him. And another MVP of the show of the pay-per-view was Josh Matthews and Don Callis.
Friend of the show.
When you're not got a crowd to feed off, I think you need to turn up your commentary by 10. And I think those guys were excellent. And I know they had a few production issues, etc.
Did you hear? I was going to say, did you hear when the music didn't play or something, and you just heard Josh off mic going, "They don't test this stuff beforehand, no." I tried to do a high pitched American accent like Josh Matthews' voice. I couldn't get it.
Let's see, but yeah, so Eric Young, Rich Swann, Bound for Glory 2020. Folks, get yourself a subscription to Impact Plus. You can subscribe on their app or via Fight TV. Go ahead and do it. You won't regret it.
I subbed Impact Plus to listen to a couple of podcasts, like watch-alongs on there, and I was impressed by the amount of stuff. There's loads of stuff on there. Very simple to kind of navigate and stuff. I love 07 through 2010 TNA. I was a bit iffy with 11 and 12, and then I loved 13 through 15 TNA, and then kind of was a bit iffy, and then the broken stuff and that sort of thing, which I loved as well. And then it's always a thing with TNA and Impact. It's like I watch the pay-per-views, every pay-per-view and stuff, and then I'm like, oh, this is the best wrestling show in the world right now. I'm going to start watching every week. And I watch for a couple of weeks, and then I kind of fall behind. And it happens all the time for Impact. And I try to catch up so much. I usually spend Sundays catching up with Impact. But I was a few weeks behind, and Bound for Glory was coming up, and I thought, I'm not going to bother catching up. I'll just watch the show. And I loved the show too. I thought it was absolutely excellent, considering the fact, the position they're in, a lesser known, roster, but getting lots of new eyes with no fans, putting on just great wrestling matches. And I loved the tag match. I thought it was as good as a multi-person tag match as you'll ever get, because they're always such a cluster. But it's just everything seemed to run so smoothly in the match. I was like, what is happening? There is nothing going wrong in this tag match. I thought that was great. I thought the women's match was great. I think Deonna Purrazzo is an absolute star. I have no idea why WWE didn't do anything with her. She had an appearance on Raw and looked $1 million on Raw, and they didn't do anything with her. And then the main event, as you say, Eric Young and Rich Swann was great too. Eric Young just seems like the sort of person that Vince would love. It puzzles me why that never worked, But great show. Can't recommend checking out Bound for Glory enough. And Impact in the UK now is now on a channel called Free Sports the day after Impact, which is the day after it's shown in America, which is lush. But if you missed that and you don't have Free Sports, it's also available on 5 Star, which is a pretty big channel when you think about it. So, yes, AEW is on ITV, but even Impact is on a better channel than WWE in the UK. So, which is really nice to see. So yeah, definitely great recommendation. Definitely check out some Impact if you have the time. And maybe you're a lapsed TNA fan, like a lot of people. The kind of stigma of TNA being daft and haha, look at TNA is totally gone, and it has been gone for about 2 years now.
I'm so glad for them. I'm so glad because I remember you telling me, you were just saying there about how there's you're keener on some years than others, but my relationship with TNA has kind of broadly been so intrigued by it in the noughties and the kind of classic TNA prime, to falling away from it, to then getting back into it in the kind of around the time of Austin Aries' world title reign, all the way up to the kind of conclusion of Aces and Eights, and then just falling out of it again, and only very briefly going back to it but mainly only to see the Matt Hardy stuff. But in amongst all those moments where I would kind of have my eyes on it, I would just kind of think they were a bit of a shambles, and I was just waiting for them to die. And it felt like every year or every 6 months there was a rumor that, oh, they're going to get bought out, or they're about to lose their TV deal. And I can't tell you how many times I've said to my mates, I'm telling you, in about 2 years' time, we'll not even be talking about TNA anymore. It'll be gone. And I'm so glad that they've just found this niche, and that they're doing well again.
Hard
They
to
deserve
kill,
it.
pun intended, which is the name of the next episode. Yeah.
Excellent. It's true.
So yeah, good shout, good recommendation, and I would highly encourage everybody checking out Impact on a weekly basis. Taya Valkyrie is one of my favourite performers in wrestling.
Man, you're right though.
She's great.
She is good. But to go back to your previous point, you're right. They are hard to kill. They've really gone for a real turning point, and I just hope that they're bound for glory. Insert Slammiversary on here.
Now we're going to the final resolution of this part of the show. We're going to have to sacrifice some minutes here. And
I just hate being in lockdown.
And now on lockdown's nearly over, we're on the victory road. Here we go.
Hey!
Let's conclude today's episode with a little installment. I won't take you very long. I won't take very long to do this, I promise. This is Meet a Wrestler.
Meet a wrestler, we met a wrestler in the flesh.
Oh yeah. You good to go? Did you the toilet again?
Look at my child. Yeah, I'm good.
Do you
need toilet? Do you need toilet? Because we'll not be going again until we get there. Okay.
I'm on the home.
It's a long way home.
No, I'll be quick. Okay, so this week's Meet a Wrestler, I thought I would take you on a nice little tale. That isn't good.
You'll need to keep all of that in there. I'm sorry. Carry on. I'm sitting back from the mic.
No, please don't. Please interrupt me. Okay, so this week's Meet a Wrestler, I'm going to take you on a wee tale. I have nothing really glaring to tell you about this one, but I thought it would be nice to share because I've never spoke about it before, or not spoke about it yet, and it is the first time that I ever went to a wrestling autograph signing. Your first one was the Cena signing, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first signing, yeah.
First signing was Cena, yeah. So the first wrestler I met was Wolfgang, and where was it? Was it in Glasgow, or was it in Kelly, or was it in? It was in the hang on a minute, it's going to come to me in a second. The Kelvin Hall in Glasgow. Is where I met Wolfgang at a show in 2008. But other than that, I had never met a wrestler before. I'd never been to a signing. I'd seen YouTube videos and that sort of thing of them, and just assumed they didn't do them in this country. Little did I know you'd bet fucking Jeff Hardy and Val Venus instead of Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch.
Yeah.
By the way, a couple of weeks ago when you told that story, did you like how I put their theme song at the end of the show?
I did. It took me a second to clock onto who it was, and then that's. I remember this now. This is Cade and Murdoch. Excellent.
It was on one of the Uncaged albums. So yes, I was looking through. I don't know how I stumbled across this. I must have just been through YouTube or whatever. But you mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, how you were on WWE.com and there was like an appearances section.
Yeah.
And I must have just, because obviously I'd bought tickets to the show that was coming up. It was in April of 2010.
Yep.
And I was going to, this is actually the first time I was going to do this. So they were going to do Raw and SmackDown house shows back to back, one on a Friday and one on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to get tickets to both shows. My parents bought me a ticket for the Raw show, and then my mate's parents bought him tickets to the SmackDown show, and we were each allowed to bring a friend, so we like took each other sort of thing, you know. So we kind of both went to the Raw show together, and then we both went to the SmackDown show together. So it was this big sort of weekend thing. And at that point, obviously, it's not WrestleMania, it's not SummerSlam weekend, but at that point, when I was whatever age I was, and he was whatever age he was, and we were in school, that was a big deal, you know, going to 2 shows back to back. We're going to get to see the whole roster. And I was always very sad when those sort of shows were over. I was like, oh, we need to wait another 9 months or whatever till the next show. But the fact that I was going to get to see another one the day after was a great experience and a great feeling. So I guess I was just on, the website looking to see if they were announcing any matches for the shows. Yeah. And I was on the appearances page and stuff, and I was just looking for Glasgow, like for WWE Raw Live or whatever. And then I saw Buchanan Street on WWE.com, and I was like, I was still young at this point, so I was kind of quite good that I knew what Buchanan Street was. But what age would I have been in 2010? I would have been 14 in 2010. 13 or 14 in 2010. So I was like, just starting to go out of town with my friends, and I was in high school now, and I just kind of knew my surroundings a little bit better. So when I saw Buchanan Street, which is a big, massive shopping street in Glasgow city centre, it just kind of, it jumped off the page at me. So I saw it, and they said, okay, there's going to be a sign in at HMV on Buchanan Street, which no longer exists now, by the way, which is a sad thing.
Oh.
Because that used to be the one with 3 floors, and they had like the gaming centre on the third floor.
I love that.
You used to go up and play like these sort of video game stuff. It was so cool. It was the first time I played the PS3 in that place.
I hadn't thought about that shop in years, but that's where I met Carlito and Primo, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it was a great shop. I loved it because it was a Virgin Megastores before that way, and that was the Virgin Megastores where I'd bought the classic 5 of 2000 VHS set, which had like the big 5 PPVs. It was great. And then it was a Zavi very briefly before it became HMV.
Very well remembered. Good knowledge of Glasgow City Centre. It was a Zavi. And then it became HMV, and it was the gaming centre and stuff, and that was really cool. That was the first time I ever bought an independent wrestling DVD. Was in that place. I got kicked out of there once. I was filming. I was for a YouTube channel. For my YouTube channel, I was filming, and the security guard that was so huge came over and was like, "Going to put the video camera away, please." And I died inside. This would have been 2011. This would have been the year after this.
Oh, here.
And he was like, me and my mate Fraser were there, and we were like just 2 wee boys just standing looking at him, and he was like, it's illegal to film in here. And I was like, I was just filming the DVDs for my YouTube channel. He's like, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Like, pure serious. And we were walking like as if we were in real trouble in school, Yeah. And then the guy was like radioing down to the door going, make sure 2 boys leave. One's got glasses, one's a bit shorter, one's got blonde hair. And we were like, oh my God, but in so much trouble. Like, I don't get in trouble very often, but when I got in trouble, it was like, oh my God.
Are you sure you have blonde hair though? Because I could have sworn it was ginger or maybe brown.
I think it was something about Fraser having the blonde hair.
All right. By the way, before you go any further, I also once met in that HMV/Zavi/Virgin former X Factor winner Shane Ward.
Oh wow! What was the song? That's my goal.
That's my goal.
That's it. Beautiful. Well, my goal was to meet these 2 beautiful wrestlers on this day. And it was funny because it was announced that it was going to be Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. Legacy. And I was like, no way. Because I was a huge Legacy fan. I had a whole wall in my room that was known on YouTube. It was famous on YouTube. It was known as the Legacy Wall. And I had figures of Orton and figures of I had the hat. Yeah, I used to wear the hat all the fucking time. Then I had all the merch and stuff. I was just a big Randy Orton fan when he was a heel, and then he brought Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase, and because of the affiliation with Orton, I was big fans of them, and so was my mate Grant. So we were buzzing. Then a couple of days before the show, it was announced that there's a good chance that Cody Rhodes isn't going to be on the show. And Cody Rhodes isn't going to be there, so we're gutted. So it was then announced it was going to be Ted DiBiase and to be announced. So we're like, oh my God, who's it going to be? Like, who else can it be? Like, it's as his tag team partner, but at this point it was after WrestleMania 26, so they'd kind of broken up.
Yeah. And
they'd had that triple threat with Orton, so I was thinking, oh, it could be anybody then, So that was fine. So we were, the rules were that you had to go to HMV in the morning, get a ticket to the signing, and by getting a ticket, you had to purchase TLC 2009 on DVD.
Yep.
Which, I don't know if you remember, Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes were not on that show, so I don't know how that made sense. There you go.
Oh, dear. It's like when I met Carlito and Primo, you had to get Royal Rumble 2009. It was the same problem.
So you had to go to HMV to get your ticket and stuff, right? But as I recalled earlier on today in this story, this was a Friday, so it was a school day. So how is this going to work? How are we going to be able to do this? How are we going to be able to, get out of school to go in the morning to meet these wrestlers and to get this ticket? And the simple explanation is just ask for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. But the problem was my mum and dad were working, so they couldn't take me. So I had to ask my pal's dad to take us, right? And my pal's dad was always very chill with this sort of stuff, right? He took us to ICW in 2010 when it was like swearing galore, and he was howling, and we were still young and stuff, and he was like, oh, that was so funny. So he was pretty chill with that sort of stuff, right? But he didn't quite understand wrestling as much as my parents do. And it just felt dangerous, Like, it just felt as if we were doing something bad. We were staying off school to go and meet these wrestlers. It just felt really cool. And we went there and we picked up I just remember being in that car, just being like feeling sick to my tummy about not being able to get the tickets might be sold out by the time we get there and stuff. But how many people look on WWE.com?
Yeah.
So we got there, we picked up the DVDs and stuff. It was like $11.99 each or whatever like that, and we got the tickets for the signing. We were buzzing, so we went home. I think I had some schoolwork to do at home. I had some homework to complete because I was staying off, so I still did some work.
Yep.
And we went out to the signing later on in the afternoon. The signing, they were supposed to be at 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And this is my first ever signing, so I didn't really think about the fact you might have to go early because you might not even get to meet them if you're too far back in the queue, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel as if it just kind of hit me at one point because I think I was ready to leave about 2 in the afternoon. I think like lunchtime sort of time, I was like, but what I just kind of realised, like, what if I can't get a chance to meet them? So we ended up leaving earlier. We went and stood outside HMV. And the queue was, if you don't remember that, the HMV, that was like 3 floors. So it was like loads of escalators, you know. So the queues were down the escalators, which is strange because obviously the escalators were moving. So we were obviously outside and we were all the way around Buchanan Street and stuff. We were standing in the queue and we were at a decent point. I was kind of optimistic we were going to get a chance to meet them. But I also didn't know who it was going to be because it was Ted DiBiase and to be announced. And I remember I've got this video actually in the back seat of my car. My mate Grant is like filming, like vlogging in the back seat of the car. And he's like, hey guys, we're here on YouTube and we're about to go to HMV. We're going to meet Ted DiBiase and someone else. We don't know who it was going to be. So I'd taken the TLC DVD. I'd taken the Tomorrow's Champions edition of WWE Magazine with both them on the cover, with DiBiase and Cody Rhodes on the cover. And I took the Ted DiBiase Ruthless Aggression figure because I knew at least I was meeting Ted, you know?
Yeah.
So we got there and stuff. I was busting for the toilet. So I was like, we're going to go to the toilet. So me and Grant ran to the toilet in Buchanan Galleries. And just as we left and we got into the toilet, my dad texted me saying, the queue is moving. They're here. Hurry up, come back. I'm dead of being upstairs in Buchanan Galleries trying to run down and meet my dad in the queue. So my dad came as well. He got a ticket as well so he could film us. Because obviously YouTube is more important. I had to make sure I got that clip.
Yeah.
So I was a bit of a diva back then. So we went into HMV and stuff. We get up all the escalators and stuff, and we get there, and we couldn't get an eye on who it was yet. We couldn't see who was there.
And was nobody saying? Was nobody like going, "Oh, it's so and so"? Or were you not getting?
Maybe they were. I just couldn't hear. I don't know. I just didn't really pick up. And of course, I was at the toilet, so I guess I missed that part. And I remember being there, and it was like I could see DiBiase sitting there, and I couldn't see who he was with. And it was like a sort of DVD shelf in front of him, and I was like, "Oh my god, it could be anybody. It could be John Cena. It could be anybody." And I just remember, like, I got so nervous. I was like, who are we going to meet here? And I was edging forward and closer, getting more and more excited. Who was going to be sitting next to Ted DiBiase Jr.? And it was Cody Rhodes.
What?
And I was like, you know, I was really happy to meet Cody, but I was a wee bit disappointed because I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be someone like The Miz or something like that, or like even because Bret Hart was there for that show. And I was like, Bret could have been there, but no, it was just as advertised. We were told Rhodes couldn't be there, but he was there. So, I mean, I was kind of happy. I was like, because Cody Rhodes was obviously one of my favorite wrestlers with Ted DiBiase and that sort of thing, but I was just expecting someone else. And, you know, now I would kill to meet Cody again, you know, but at the time it was like, you know, I'll just meet anybody. So it was still cool. Got to meet Legacy together, you know, that was cool.
Yeah, of course.
It was just so funny. I got so nervous about who it was going to be, and then it was just Cody. So I was like, all right, well, there they are. But it was nice that they were together. That was nice. I didn't like to see my friends fighting. So we get closer up, and I've got this video. My dad starts filming on like my sister's old sort of camcorder thing, and he stands there. And Grant goes up first, and I don't know. I didn't get too nervous. You know the way you get when you see them and you're really starstruck and stuff. I just remember standing before, like, ready to sort of go up to the table and stuff, and handing the security guard the things I wanted to get signed, and just seeing how nice they were with people. Especially Cody Rhodes, like he was really like shaking everybody's hand, and smiling and talking to them and stuff. And I really calmed me a little bit. And I just went up to them and I shook their hands and stuff. And DiBiase signed the figure. Mm-hmm. They both signed the DVD, and then I gave them the Tomorrow's Champions magazine. So the cover of this magazine is John Morrison standing at the front, and then it's Kofi Kingston and Evan Bourne behind him, and then it's Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes behind them, right? So I thought I'll get both of them to sign. I'll look beautiful on this magazine because they're both on the cover of the magazine. So I put it in front of Cody, and Cody takes the Sharpie and puts big X's in front of Morrison, Evan Bourne, and Kofi Kingston's faces, and just crosses them out and signs there.
Brilliant.
And I was like, oh, that's brilliant.
Do you know
and
what?
I gave it.
So funny that you say that, because and I'll tell this in long form down the line. See, the first time I met Goldust, which was the same day I met Bailey, some kid in front of me had like the WWE encyclopedia,
right?
And this was not long after Cody left WWE. And so Dustin Rhodes, Goldust, was signing this yearbook, and he crossed out Cody in this kid's yearbook and said, "Who's this guy? Who's this guy?" It's the same thing. It's so funny. Must be a
The
Rhodes thing.
fact that it was Cody's brother, that's hilarious. So Cody crossed them out, and they both signed the magazine and stuff, and then they shook my hand and stuff. And Grant, my mate who I was there with, forgot to get a picture. So my dad was like not having this. So my dad kind of like stepped in and was like, "We need to get a picture together." So we stand there together, and Grant comes in, the two of us, and like hold my figures and stuff, and wear my legacy hat, my legacy t-shirt, like a wee fanboy. And Cody, like, there's a brilliant picture. DiBiase is wearing the sunglasses, but Cody like does this big sort of like point to us, and we're standing there together. And so it's like legacy with the stars of CWA wrestling on YouTube. And and it's just this nice picture because we were doing like a sort of collab channel at the time on YouTube, me and Grant. So it was like a nice picture for the YouTube channel and stuff. So it's just an all round great experience. And then went to the show that night. And quick side story here before I finish up. But when I went home that night, I was looking on WWE.com to see what they were saying about the matches and stuff. And I also saw that there was going to be another signing the day after. And it was going to be in Tesco. And it was going to be in the St. Rollox Tesco, which is my local Tesco. And who was going to be signing in Tesco? Who do you think?
Bret Hart?
Drew McIntyre.
No way.
Who probably shopped in that Tesco earlier in his life because he was the Intercontinental Champion at the time. And I just talked to my dad because it was Saturday the next day, and I was like, "Dad, can we go meet Drew tomorrow? Can we go meet Drew tomorrow?" And he was like, "Yeah, why not?" So we went to meet Drew the next day in Tesco. And it was weird because every time I go to that Tesco now, I go to the exact spot I met him, and it's just this nice wee nostalgia bit.
Oh.
And there's this long queue, and I was standing there, and I had what did I get him to sign? Oh, I just got him to sign the Tomorrow's Champions magazine and the TLC DVD because he actually won the IC Championship on that show.
Yep.
So that was kind of handy to have that. So I went up to him, and I gave him this big handshake, and it was kind of weird because he had like a pen in his hand. Mm-hmm. So when Drew shook my hand, it was like with a pen in hand, it was kind of weird. And I gave him the Tomorrow's Champions magazine, and he saw that, Rhodes had crossed those guys out.
Yeah.
So Drew went, haha, cross they two out as well. And he put crosses over Rhodes and DiBiase's face. And he was feuding with John Morrison at the time, and he went, oh, definitely cross him out. And there's another big one over Morrison. And then signed the magazine, and I've got that magazine framed, and it's still next to my bed right now.
Mate, can you send me a picture of that when you next get a chance?
Again, yeah. So it's got crosses over their faces and the 3 autographs on the magazine, and it sits next to my bed, and it has done since 2010. So there you go.
What a beautiful story, man. That's lovely. You mentioned Bret Hart at that show. You've just reminded me that I've totally forgotten that I've met Bret Hart, and I've never told the story. So I need to do that the next time we do meet a wrestler.
I love it. I'd like to hear that one. Is that a funny story, embarrassing story? It's okay?
Very embarrassing for me for a few reasons. Actually, off the top of my head, there's 3 main reasons why it's embarrassing. So maybe 4.
Good.
So that's a good one for down the line.
Yeah, Bret was at that show. So that was a wild weekend. So I met Legacy one day, then saw the Raw show, then met Drew in my local Tesco, and then SmackDown. And the SmackDown show was main evented by Jack Swagger versus Edge for the world title. And earlier in that show, Kane wrestled Ezekiel Jackson.
Oh, God.
And Kane hit a big boot on Ezekiel Jackson, and Jackson took a bump and broke his leg in the opening match. What? And I was like, whoa. That was a bit of a deflating opener, and I felt really bad for him. Yeah.
God. Because did Bret not, put someone in the sharpshooter that night? Is that not what happened?
He may have done. He was a special guest ref for Cena versus Miz in the main event of the Raw one.
That's right. Because I think I've seen a clip.
Cena versus Sheamus, sorry.
Yeah, I've seen a fan shot clip from that night with Bret. Because it was that same year, maybe late 2009 that I met Bret. It was before he went back to WWE, actually, so it was 2009 that I met Bret. But yeah, awesome, man. That's a lovely story, and the whole thing with Drew at the end is nuts, especially because it's in Tesco's as well. When you see I met Drew McIntyre at Tesco's, I would have thought I would have thought he was just buying a sandwich because, my pal Jamie, who did our artwork, he would often come out with, I was at the Cat House the other night, and Drew McIntyre was at the bar. Apparently that would happen quite a lot. In those years between his WWE runs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just imagine you bumping into him having a sandwich, and the your Cesaro story comes to mind, which that's got to come soon.
Yeah, that'll come soon. Did you just say having a sandwich? Is that not what you thought the Spanish commentator's name was?
Yeah, Hugo having a sandwich. You heard
Hugo having a sandwich. Yeah. I'm trying to find this picture as I'm talking here of me and Drew and me and Legacy, but I can't find it. So I'll find it and post it on the socials. But my young boy and was sitting next to Drew and Legacy. It was funny because I nearly walk away from Drew, and my dad's like, "You need to get a picture." I just turned to Drew and I was like, "I forgot I got a picture." So yes, there you go. That's my story of meeting DiBiase Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, two people I would love and kill to meet again, and Ted DiBiase. So I've met his dad though, and he hustled a wee boy out of 20 quid. So, so yeah. Until next time, folks. That has been episode number 31. Next week we have something very, very exciting planned. So stay tuned for that one. And yes, anything you'd like to say to the listeners before we leave?
Thank you for listening. Let us know what you think.
Yes.
And go and do something nice now.
Go have a bath and watch some wrestling in the bath.
And you'll never not hear the music that's played in the WrestleMania 17 opener whilst you do so. So enjoy.
And get nice and bubbly. Have a little bit of the bubbly whilst you're having bubbly bath.